This week's guest not only has six-figure followings across her social media platforms, she also has six-figure downloads from her podcast. Let's tune in this week and hear from Jennifer Allwood and learn her sizzling secrets to success. Hey, my friend, it's Melanie Ferguson, your host of Creatives on Fire, the podcast where I hope to inspire you to create a profitable six-figure following online. So turn it up and listen in to amazing stories of success, along with behind-the-scenes secrets and valuable tips from, you guessed it, Creatives on Fire. All right. We have another Craftathon coming up right around the corner. If you are not familiar with the Craftathon, it is an amazing 48-hour adventure for your online business. So it is where we gather 54 expert crafters to present projects online to the public. This is hands down one of the fastest ways to grow your audience to a six-figure following. And you do not want to miss out on the next one. It is going to be Saturday and Sunday, June 5th through 6th, 2021. I encourage you to check out all things Craftathon at craftathonpresenter.com. And I'm excited to see what this does for your business. Join us on the inside. I'll see you there. Hi there, it's Melanie Ferguson again, and I wanted to take a minute to introduce you guys to someone very near and dear to me and my business, Miss Jennifer Allwood. So she has so many things that are going on in her world. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Go right ahead, Jennifer.
Melanie, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I appreciate you and what you're doing. My name is Jennifer Allwood. I am a business coach to over 3,000 women every month in 2 different groups. I teach in particular, creative women, how to both build their social media and then how to monetize what they've built. So I have over 500,000 social media fans. So I feel like I know what I'm doing in terms of growing a platform. But then what will often happen is someone will, they'll have a decent sized Instagram or a decent sized Facebook, but they're still not making any money. So I teach them how to build it and how to monetize it both.
Awesome. And that is why we have you as an expert.
Oh, thank you.
Exactly. Yes. So let me ask you, we are on the topic of podcasts, and I know that you most recently have added those to your business. And I don't say most recently lightly. I know it's been more than a hot minute, but basically, if I was a brand new business owner, just getting started, why would I want to have a podcast?
Yeah, this is a great question. I was talking to someone the other day. She had DM'd me on Instagram. I love Instagram DMs. And what she asked me, Melanie, was, I'm thinking about starting a podcast as a way to generate income in my business. What are your thoughts? And I was like, hold up, sis. Okay, listen. And this is what I told her. Are some people able to monetize their podcast? Yes. Is my podcast monetized? A little bit. I mean, literally, it's like this much revenue for the year. Do you know what I mean? It's so tiny. And we have been podcasting for, we are on 117 episodes of the Jennifer Allwood Show, one every week. So that's 2 years. So what I told her is that I need you to think about podcasting as something different. Podcasting is a way to seed plant. And she's like, seed plant? And I'm like, yeah, I need you to think of podcasting as like a modern day book. Like, when you tell people, Melanie, that you have a podcast, your legitness in their mind just goes up a little bit. They're like, oh, okay, she's got a podcast. People perceive something about you and your business differently when they hear that you have a podcast. Does it necessarily mean that you're smarter or doing better or anything else than anybody else? No, but there is a level of perception that happens. So when you have a podcast, which I do, or the book that you have that's going to be coming out, which I do. So use your podcast to use a different group of people, because I think you and I have talked about this. The demographics of people who listen to podcasts are very different than the people who are just like literally scrolling Facebook and Instagram. The demographics data shows that people who listen to a podcast are generally more educated in terms of a lot of them have college degrees. Usually the income level of their home is higher than non-podcast listeners. A lot of times they are people who are working outside the home, so they're commuting and they're listening on commutes, or they're very disciplined in terms of their physical fitness. They're out walking, so they're listening to podcasts. But it's a different demographic than what you're going to hit on Facebook or Instagram. And the truth is, with reach plummeting on Facebook and on Instagram, having another option of reaching people on a podcast is a really good thing to add into your business. That was a long answer.
That's good. We want to know everything, all of the things, right? So would you say it's almost like the podcast is the new book?
A book is a very long process. A podcast you can have started in the next couple of weeks. A book means that you need to figure out, am I going to self-publish? Am I going to have a publisher? How am I going to do all that? A podcast is much simpler. So if you ever want a book, I would say that a podcast would be a really good idea for you. Number one, it will force you to really hone on your communication skills. Like, you can't have a podcast and it be any amount of decent if you can't figure out how to string words together. And oh, by the way, if you want to write a book, that's stringing words together. Does that make sense? And so that you would play off of each other very nicely. If you ever hope to have a book, a podcast would be a great way to seed plant for that book eventually, and to show potential publishing houses that you're able to communicate. And when a publishing house can see that you could communicate, then they're like, oh, okay, then she could also probably write a book.
Right. Makes total sense. Well, let me ask you. So I'm brand new. I'm kind of buying into this idea that I might want a podcast just to kind of boost my branding, get a little more feelers out there. How would I do it? Do I outsource it? Is it something I can do by myself? What do you recommend?
If for somebody who wants to just start a podcast from scratch, right? Okay.
Right.
So, I am in the fantastic position of having my best business buddy teaches people how to podcast. Carrie Robine is her name. She's got a course. So Carrie helped me kind of set it up. So essentially you need somebody to help you figure out your equipment. And we keep it pretty simple. I literally have a Yeti Blue podcast mic sitting right here. We have a set of headphones. A lot of times I will record a podcast, Melanie, and then publish it to a Facebook Live at the same time. So I have a light kit above me. It's sitting right here on my desk so that the lighting is halfway good, which on a traditional podcast, over on iTunes, of course, the lighting isn't going to matter. But you're going to need to sign your podcast up with a company like Libsyn, who is who we use, and it's Libsyn. And Libsyn is going to be the company that ends up putting your podcast onto iTunes. You also need a strategy in the beginning. You need a podcast name. You need a podcast logo. You need to figure out how to describe your podcast on iTunes. And then you're going to need a strategy. I know originally Carrie had told me you want at least 3, but preferably 10 episodes right off the bat to get started. And they're kind of like, you're letting them, release into the world very quickly. You don't want to just record one podcast, start that, release that one podcast, and then it, be a couple of months before you do another one. That's definitely not how you want to roll it out. So you would want to start also kind of conditioning your audience and leaking to them that a podcast is coming. You can show them what it looks like to subscribe to a podcast, but you'd want to start getting your audience ready so that you have some listeners right off the bat.
Gotcha. So how do you decide topic for content? How do you get those first 10 ideas?
Okay. So, here's the deal, Melanie. A lot of business owners think, what am I going to talk about? And they say that when it comes to social media, what am I going to post about? They say that when it comes to blog posts, what am I going to write about? They say that when it comes to an email strategy, what am I going to email about? And they say with a podcast, what am I going to talk about? Well, honey, what do you talk about in your business all day long? That's my question. You're making it so hard. So if you literally gosh, I just don't know what to talk about. Okay, go to your DMs on Facebook and Instagram. What are some of the last questions you got from your audience? Go to your Facebook page or your Instagram page. What are some of the last questions you got there? Look at your email. What are some of the last questions people have asked you? Or look at social media and figure out what ticks you off. That's always a good sign to me. Ooh, this would be a great podcast episode when I see something and I'm like, can you believe, I'm thinking that's what I'm texting to my girlfriend and so those are often really good topics. So I think a lot of times people want to do a podcast on why I'm doing a podcast. Ain't nobody cares why you're doing a podcast. It's precious. that your great grandfather would be super proud of you, and a podcast has always been on your top 10 things list to do, but nobody cares. So what you have to think of is, what does your audience want to hear from you? And that's how you figure out your podcast episode topics.
I think that's awesome. That's totally key, because your audience is why you're doing it anyway.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, so you've started your little podcast and you're excited and you have it going. Where should you share it? Where else should you share it besides iTunes?
Okay, so you're going to make sure that you want to, talk about it just nonchalantly when you're doing a Facebook Live, when you're doing an Instagram Live. You want to actually do posts over to the podcast episode on iTunes from Facebook, from Instagram. Now you're going to cry and you're going to email me and you're going to be like, Jennifer, help, my Facebook, reach on this post was terrible. And I'm going to tell you it's because you're sending somebody outside of Facebook. Don't panic. You still have to do that. You have a business. You need downloads, you need listens, you need more clients, you need sales. So there are going to be times when you're posting a link outside of Facebook on Facebook, and Facebook hates you for it. But it is what it is. And so don't be too concerned. Because what you're asking people to do is leave Facebook, go subscribe or listen to your podcast, and then for you to think that they will come back and leave a comment is ridiculous. They're not going to do it. So just know that your reach number is going to stink, but it still has to happen. You want to make sure that the link to your podcast is somewhere like in your Instagram bio, in your Facebook page bio. If I go to your personal Facebook page, Melanie, the one where you're looking at your friends' babies and cats and what have you, you have like a grouping of 9 photos that you can pick on your personal profile that kind of show the world who you are. One of those personal photos for me is a picture of me podcasting, because if Sally, who heard me on your podcast right now, looks up Jennifer Allwood on Facebook, there's both the Jennifer Allwood that's verified with 360,000 followers, but there's also my personal one. Well, if somebody on accident goes to my personal Jennifer Allwood, where I show my kids and vacations to my fans and or friends and family, if they accidentally get there, then they can at least see 9 photos that are business related, including a podcast photo that will tell them how to find me in a business way. Also on my website. So on my website, I have, a link of jenniferallwood.com of how somebody can go listen to my podcast. So there's all those ways. We also use Instagram stories. After you get to 10,000 followers on Instagram, you can do the swipe up. So every week I say, hey there, did you see that I've got a new YouTube expert, which is what I have this week on my podcast? If you haven't listened yet, swipe up. Now, if you don't have swipe up, just say, if you don't have 10,000 followers, say, hey, DM me for the link, and people will send you a DM. You can be really fancy and use Instagram's quick replies and give them the podcast episode link back. So, and in one other way, Melanie, we actually put my podcast on Pinterest. We have over 100,000 followers on Pinterest, and you can see links to my podcast over there as well.
Love it. So you covered every single base.
Yeah,
and that
is the thing you have to, because and we send it out an email every week. So if you go to jenniferallwood.com, you can get on my email list, and every week we send you a link to the podcast episode. So when you think about how many people, Melanie, want to gripe about social media and the reach being so low, and oh, by the way, the reach is low on all of them, but you have the ability to reach your people on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest with your podcast episode, reach them via email with a podcast episode, reach them with, talking about it on a live or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can plug your podcast, and you need to be doing it in all of them.
That's awesome. It's just another piece of content packaged a little differently.
Exactly.
And it makes you look kind of smart and up to date.
Thank you.
I want to honor your time and appreciate you having on here. I just have one last parting question. It's kind of a 2-part question. What has having a podcast done for your business overall, do you think? And how can we get a hold of you?
Thank you for that. Okay. So, having a podcast has allowed me to interview speakers that I never would have been able to get in touch with before. Like when I look at the long list of people I've had, Amy Porterfield on my podcast. I've had Rachel Hollis on my podcast. I've had, I just think of the long list of people that I've had that I never would have met otherwise. In addition, because I have a podcast, it kind of makes other people who have a podcast think, okay, she's used to talking, she could be a decent guest. So I'm getting ready to be John Lee Dumas guest on Entrepreneurs on Fire, one of the hottest podcasts in the nation. It's always in the top 10. I don't know that I would have landed that if I didn't have my own podcast. Does that make sense? So my podcast allows me to reach an audience I maybe wouldn't otherwise be able to reach. It also has me in their ear. And here's just sales 101, Melanie. Let me tell you something. Whenever we open up my monthly coaching group or my course that we do once a year, I will inevitably have people message me and say, I feel like I hear you all the time. Like, what would Jennifer do? I feel like I hear you in my sleep. Or the other day, I wasn't going to do a Facebook Live, but then I heard you in my head. Well, the reason they can hear me in their head is because they've heard me on a mic. And when people hear you in their head, not like the creepy voices in your head that you need a therapist for, but when they hear me in their head, it makes the sale to them so much easier. So I'm going to go ahead and say that having a podcast has made our sales go up. I'll go ahead and say that. And then, so where can people find me? Go listen to my podcast, The Jennifer Allwood Show. I'm Jennifer Allwood on every social media. Go to jenniferallwood.com. That's ALLWOOD. And so you can find me in all those places.
That's super awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yep, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, my friend, for listening to the podcast. I'm blessed every single time you come back and listen to an episode. It's especially amazing when you share it with others on social media. So be sure to follow Creatives on Fire online. Listen, if you have not already done so, I want you to go ahead and download the 5 ideas I personally used to explode my online audience growth to a 6-figure following. You can find that at creativesonfirepodcast.com. I appreciate you, and until next time, stay inspired.